Chairman, again, welcome to the committee. I said I was going to ask you some tough questions. Let me just start by saying I do think you're the right person at the right time for a very difficult assignment, and I noticed that the Secretary has been talking about unity of effort, and my sense is from your background that's exactly how you will tackle this responsibility. Let me ask you about a couple of specific things, if I could, that have come up recently. One is the role of the department in these increasing incidents of threats and attacks on Jewish community centers, on Jewish day schools, on cemeteries. And by the way, this isn't just with regard to the Jewish community. Yesterday there was a bomb threat with regard to the Islamic community right outside of my hometown of Cincinnati. The mosque actually received a bomb threat, which has happened over time, including after 9/11. And my sense is that there is more the Department of Homeland Security can do. Over the last week or so, Senator Peters, who is here on our panel, was here a moment ago. I'm sure he'll come back. And we drafted a letter, and it was a letter to you, to your boss. It was also to the FBI and also to the Justice Department, making sure that you're aware of what's going on around the country and asking for your additional help. By the end of that process of asking colleagues if they wanted to join us, every single member of this committee signed that letter. In fact, every single member of the Senate signed that letter. That never happens. We had 100 senators signed the letter. And what it said is, you know, we need help, and we need you to understand the importance of this. I met with the Jewish community in Cincinnati and Columbus and Cleveland last week in Columbus, and they gave me a lot of specific ideas that they're looking for. I know Secretary Kelly vowed to support communities last week. He talked about the Department's Protective Security Advisors, the PSA program. This is welcome, but I think there's more to do. One is these nonprofit security grants and that program. So I'd like you to address that at the end of my question, just see whether that's being properly resourced and what you know about that program from your previous service. I think there's a real need for better information sharing from what I hear from the communities back home, specifically with regard to the fusion centers and getting that information down to the local community so local law enforcement knows what the threat information is, what the trends are. Opening up that flow back to the local community, I think, is really important. It doesn't always happen. Better training is another thing. There's this group called the National Protection and Programs Directorate that I know deals with a lot of this. So what I'm asking you today is to make a commitment to us that you will take a fresh look at this area, given this increasing evidence that there is more of a threat out there and actual attacks. If you look at the desecration of the cemeteries, including one in the home state of our ranking member, I know she's spoken out on. My sense is, again, that all of my colleagues are hearing from their constituents back home about this. So if you could give me that commitment today that you would take a fresh look at this along with General Kelly and get back to us on what you think the Department can do more effectively.
I give you that, my commitment. Crimes based on religion are against our Constitution and cannot be tolerated. Excuse me. My knowledge of the specific grant program is limited. I will get back to you on that. And I do look forward. I know the benefit of working with the governors and the state and local and getting information from them, from boots on the ground, and again through the fusion centers, getting operational intelligence back out to them. And I think info sharing, going back to the data issue and getting things timely and complete is very important. And I expect additional work on the fusion centers and enhancing their performance to be part of our leadership.
Thank you. Second question I have is about this heroin epidemic, and Chair and Ranking Member have been very involved in this. I mentioned it today, but we've got a situation now where more and more families are facing this challenge of addiction. We have a new drug called fentanyl, which is a synthetic heroin, as you know, coming in from overseas. Fentanyl, carfentanil, U4, it comes by various names. And to give you an example of what's happening in my home state, between 2014 and 2015, we believe there was a doubling of overdoses and deaths relating to fentanyl. If you look at February of this year, just last month, the shortest month of the year, we had the most deaths in your hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, that we've had from overdoses. Most of those overdoses were because of fentanyl, often being mixed with heroin. I'm told by law enforcement back home that the fentanyl is now being sprinkled on marijuana. This is incredibly deadly stuff, 30 to 50 times more powerful than heroin, and it's killing people. And unlike heroin, which does come over the southern border, as was talked about, and one reason we need a secure border is to be able to stop more of that and increase the price for that does get through, because that would help. But this fentanyl comes by the U.S. mail system, and there was a recent study done by the U.S. China Commission saying that It's being produced primarily in China, sometimes in India, sometimes other countries, sent to the United States by the U.S. mail. And the reason the traffickers are using the U.S. mail system is because if they send it through another means, particularly, you know, the UPSs or the FedExes, they have to provide electronic data up front, where it's from, what's in it, where it's going. But the mail system, they don't have to provide that. So it's the preferred way of sending this poison into our communities. I'd like your commitment today that you will work with us on legislation called the STOP Act that most members of this committee have been involved with. Some have been co-sponsors of. It's bipartisan legislation. Amy Klobuchar and I from Minnesota introduced it again recently, and it basically just says, with regard to the mail system, give law enforcement the tool to require that electronic data so that they can target these packages. They can't look at millions, but they can look at hundreds. And the Customs and Border Protection people I've talked to privately say, absolutely, we need this tool. Local law enforcement is desperate to have it. So could you give us a commitment today that you will work with this committee to ensure that we can get this legislation moving and begin to stop some of this poison from coming into our communities?
I give you my commitment that we understand that that the drug problem it's a bipartisan. I heard from every member of this committee as I met with them on it, and commit to working forward to securing against that threat to our people. Yes.
Thank you. And again, this is one that is not going to be the silver bullet to stop drug abuse in our country, but it will stop some of this poison from coming in, which is the new major threat we're seeing, and it will increase the price, which is one of the issues, that fentanyl, unbelievably, is now less expensive than some of these other drugs that are opioids that are causing so much devastation in our communities and the breakup of families and crime and other issues. Finally, I've just got a few seconds left, but with regard to cybersecurity, I just want to echo what my colleagues have said already about the importance of that in your new role. We've tried very hard to give you the tools to be able to get better people in-house, more flexibility in hiring. If you'd make a commitment to us today to look into that issue and tell us what you need that you're not getting to be able to get the best people at DHS and other departments that are working with you all to push back on the cybersecurity threat.
Yes, we have what we need legislatively. We need to move forward, if confirmed, with the accepted workforce, and that will go a long way to help with the cyber issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.